Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soulful Abundance Festival. I'm your host, Elise Preston, founder of Be More Connected, and today I am so excited to be here with life coach and life alchemist, Shirin Eskandani. Welcome, Shirin.
Hi, Elise. I'm so excited to be here and to be connecting with your amazing community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited for the conversation that we are about to dive into. But first, just want to introduce you to our audience. And so, Shirin is a life coach, public speaker, and writer who specializes in mindfulness and mindset work. She's been featured as a wellness expert on The Today Show, Shape and Cosmopolitan magazine, and prior to building her successful coaching business, she was an award-winning opera singer performing at Carnegie Hall and the Metropolitan Opera. Certified as an international coach or by the International Coach Federation, Corinne's holistic approach to transformation is influenced by her background in meditation, spirituality, and the arts. And we are so thrilled that she is here with us today. And I know that I had a chance to share a bit of your more formal bio, but curious to hear in your own words about some of the aspects of your own healing journey that really supported you with finding your way to the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to also express it in that way too, because I feel like we have our professional bios and they capture some of it, but I always feel like the story is the bio. I always go to someone's about page whenever I'm curious about them because I think that informs me so much more about who they are and how they got to where they are. So I love this question, Elise. Um, so as I said in my bio, I was a professional opera singer for like 10 plus years. And I, from a very young age, from when I was very little, I loved to sing. And it was on stage when I was singing, when I was performing, when I felt the most myself, when I felt the most joy, when I felt the most freedom. And so I was very lucky. I grew up in a house where that was just like, my parents were so encouraging of that dream. And so that's kind of what I set out to do in the world.
Right.
And in our culture, I felt like I was one of the lucky ones where I was like, wow, I discovered my purpose. Like when I was like 5, like, whoa, here are people struggling with their purpose. I'm totally fine. I'm like, I got it. Here I am doing this thing. And so I threw myself into music. And where I grew up, I was kind of like a big fish in a little pond. And because of that, because I was receiving so much validation and I was getting opportunities. And I was also a very, very hard worker, child of
Mm.
immigrants, first generation immigrant, right? So, very hard worker. And so, all of that was really kind of, I could see the equation, put in the work, you do the things and you get the validation. Great. I'm amazing. Life is great. Then I moved to New York to do my master's here. This is where I live now. And I got to my master's program and I was like, yay, it's going to be more of the same. And I was like, oh my God, I am not, can I say shit? I just said
Oh,
it.
yeah, go
I'm
for
not
it.
shit. I I got to New York and everyone was just as talented as I was. Everyone was just as hardworking as I was. And I realize this now. I didn't know this then, but up until that point, my entire sense of identity was formed around being the best, was formed around having validation, was formed around being a people pleaser, a perfectionist. And all of those things that I was trying to grasp for no longer worked in New York. And
Mm.
so everything started to kind of fall and crumble around me. And again, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to put in the work instead of really realizing it's about the inner work because I didn't know that stuff, right? It was like
Mhm.
using the same things that I'd always used, which was overachieving, perfectionism, just working extra, extra hard. And so I made my dream come true.
Mm.
And I feel like I work with a lot of people who, in some way, have made their dream come true, but they
Yes.
do it in such unhealthy ways with such unhealthy coping mechanisms
Mm.
that you get to the dream, right? So, like, I was traveling around the world, working at some of the opera houses I dreamed of, working with people I had dreamed of. And
Right.
it felt like a nightmare, like not a dream, like because I was my worst critic. I couldn't. all I could see was what I didn't do well. All I could see was what I should be doing better. I was comparing myself. I was just really to a point where I had lost the joy, had lost the freedom, like all that stuff I loved about singing, I lost.
Yes.
And my kind of wake up call was when I got my job at the Metropolitan Opera. My agent called me and he was like, "Shirin, you have been invited. Like they want you in Carmen next season." And like this was a literal dream. Like everything about this offer was perfect. Everything. Like it's exactly what I had dreamed of. Because I think sometimes we get a dream and we're like, oh, but maybe if I made X amount more money or they were 5 inches taller or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like this dream was perfect. It was perfect,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect. And
Yeah.
this dream for me was like the if I. When I get this job, I will know I'm good enough. If I get this job, I will feel that happiness, that joy, like it was my when I if I thing that I was just holding on to that I was like, well, the reason why I feel so shitty is because I haven't gotten this amazing job at the Met.
Mm.
And I got the job and I got the contract and I went to sign it and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel any of those things. I don't believe myself to be any better because of this
Mm.
contract. And that's when I realized that, oh crap, like it's not the external stuff that makes us feel how we want to feel. We're responsible for that. That's what we have to be cultivating and nourishing. And that's what doing the work is. And so of course, said yes to the opportunity, but also having this big realization that, like, I need to start, start being present in my life in a whole different way, right? Because I have all of this amazingness and it doesn't feel amazing. So that's on me. So
Mm.
I had a year and a half to get ready. And in that year and a half, of course, I was like preparing vocally. Um, but what I was really preparing was like my mind and my spirit and my emotional, like just all of that. And
Yes.
so I did that through what I call the alchemy of mindset work and mindfulness and manifestation, which have many different components. But a year and a half later, I got to the Met, and I say that my greatest achievement was not singing at the Met, but it was singing at the Met and enjoying every part of the process,
Mm.
right? Even when I messed up, because that's going to happen. Like before I'd mess up, and that's all I could think of for the rest of the show,
Mm.
or even when things didn't go my way, it was just this resilience, this ability to thrive, this ability to enjoy. Um, that's why, like, one of my big taglines on my podcast is like, this is about creating your dream life while you're living your dream life,
Mm.
not waiting until we get there and thinking there is this mythical, magical place where everything is going to be given to us.
Right.
So anyway, so I got to the Met, did it, amazingness, but also because I had done all that work, I could realize I was like, wait a second, actually, I don't think performing is the thing for me anymore.
Mm.
And that's when I was working with a coach at that time who'd been a real pivotal part of my transformation. And I was like, I really like coaching. And so that's how I got into coaching. And
Yes.
that's how I also I have a lot of different ideas around what purpose is. And at that point in my life, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm a millennial stereotype, becoming like a singer to like now a coach. Like this is what are
Mm.
you doing? Like, what is this? And in that moment, like I actually also really had a breakthrough that like, oh, our purpose is never about anything that's outside of us. And I could see
Yes.
how coaching and singing and all the things I did in my life were expressions of my purpose, were vehicles for my purpose. And
Right.
so yeah, so now like I live my purpose each and every day, not just through my job, through so many different things I do. I still sing sometimes. I still have some things that I do that
Beautiful.
are musical, but my love right now is doing this alchemy with coaching. And yeah, that was a very long answer, Elise.
This
Thank
was
you for letting me share
beautiful.
it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's just like so much gold and so much wisdom that's infused through that story. And I love that you shared so openly and so vulnerably about your process. And I think that it's something that so many can relate to in terms of really having so much of our connection to our purpose being fueled from these external sources, right? And I think a powerful part of your story that really hit me was like, oh my gosh, when you got the dream, when you got the thing, it actually felt like a nightmare.
Yeah.
In what ways do, in our own lives, in our own experience, we set ourselves up for similar experiences or similar dynamics? And yeah, it's so true that we are responsible for nurturing ourselves and doing that inner work and tending to and caring for ourselves so that when we are doing the amazing things, like you said, like it actually feels amazing.
Yeah.
Being able to cultivate more of that resiliency and ability to enjoy our journey and not just have to like struggle and hustle and force along every step of the way. And I'd love to, I know you said you have a lot of different perspectives on purpose, and I'd love to maybe go a little bit deeper here. And I love how you talked about, you live your purpose every day and you get to be this vessel for expressing your purpose through many different channels. But curious if there's any more you'd like to share here.
Yeah. For me, a lot of the people who come to work with me, like some of the phrases I hear so often are, I just feel really lost. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a mess. And the common thread with all the people I work with is one, from the outside, their lives do not look like a mess. Like, if you saw
Right.
them, you'd be like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. They're, incredibly, like, either they have incredible resumes, achievements, they're like the backbone of their community, they
Mm,
have defied odds, or they're like a combination of all three of them. So I'm like, okay, so like this is not true.
sure.
However, something in our greater culture, in our societies, in our communities and families is making you think that. And I
Yeah.
think the biggest one is that our purpose is found in our jobs or in our careers.
Mm,
And I just don't believe that. I think that our jobs or careers are sometimes an extension of, an expression of a vehicle for a purpose. But the work that I do with clients and in my programs is, your purpose is actually within you. We're
mhm.
looking for our purpose in all the wrong places. We're looking for it outside of ourselves in really big and grand ways. So, like our job or our relationships. And to me, our purpose is being expressed every day in the smallest of ways, whether it is, the books on your bookshelf, or the conversation you have with the checkout clerk, or sometimes it is your career. And so it's about finding the thread of, like, what are the things that really make you come alive.
Yeah.
And what I do is I get people to create a one sentence purpose statement.
Yeah.
My one sentence purpose statement is to transform and connect with people through joy,
Love.
right? And for 10 plus years, when I discovered this, it was so empowering because I no longer felt any judgment towards myself about, like, switching careers. I was like, "Oh, for 10 years, my way that I transformed and connected was through music.
Yeah.
Now it's through coaching. And maybe 5 years from now, I don't know, like, it'll be something else." But it gives us this freedom and fluidity to do whatever we want. And it
Mm,
also allows us to never feel lost,
right.
right? Because we are rooted in our purpose all the time. Like, when I have a conversation and I know I just had like a joyful conversation with someone, I'm like,
Yes.
that's your purpose. That's your purpose. So that to me is such an empowering thing to know. Because I also think right now, in our culture, which is I love it and I don't love it as well, we're really pushed to feel like our job is supposed to be our purpose and our passion.
Right.
And I have this concept I call the three jobs. So the three jobs are: the first job is the job that you hate, you don't like, you're not compensated. Like, it's a terrible job. And because of circumstances, we've all had that job. There's no shame in that.
Right.
But that's like the first job. The second
Mm,
job is the one that I feel like is really idealized and idolized right now, which is kind of our jobs, right? Doing this work that's your purpose, your passion. Everyone's like encouraged to be a serial entrepreneur, make your hobby into your side hustle, and then make your side hustle your hustle,
right.
which I do love. However, um, I don't think it's for everyone. As you
Mhm.
know, shit gets really real when your purpose, like I knew this as a singer, when my singing became my main source of income, whew,
Mm.
it was a slippery slope
Sure.
to resentment and anger and frustration. And also, like, it's just not for everyone. And so, the third job that I really love and that I really want us all to be more open to and to accept is the job that you like, that you're good at, but it gives you the money, the benefits, the time, the whatever to explore, to invest in, to do the things that really bring you joy or your purpose or your passion. And when you know what your purpose is in that one sentence purpose statement, you can do that wherever you want, right? You can do it at Microsoft, you could do it at home, you could do it at, I don't know, I'm trying to think of companies, but you know what I'm saying? So um I think having like embracing that more is just a weight off a lot. I like a lot of the time with clients, I'm like you don't have to make this your career. And you can take time with it. Take tons of time with it. Because I think it can be damaging when we like rush into these things. Not that I'm saying we shouldn't make our passions into our occupations, our jobs, but I don't think that means that you're living a purpose-filled life if you are and you're not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, that that's not the only way.
Yes. Yes.
Options and other avenues that may be just as like beautiful and powerful and expansive. And
Yes.
I really appreciated just the way that you were talking about having this powerful purpose statement, and that being rooted in that and knowing the ways that you transform and the ways that you connect, that that helps you to be rooted in your purpose at all times, that it can be so empowering.
Yes.
That has been a huge part of my own growth journey, and being able to step into this work as well has been being connected to different tools and modalities that supported me with understanding myself more at that like core soul level, understanding my unique essence and gifts and what I share, and being able to just really offer that in all the space
Mm.
that we move through. And I hadn't heard that that breakdown that you shared around the 3 jobs, but I really think that is so true and really resonates for me in my own experience of, like, having that first job or first couple of jobs that were just rough and
Yes. Yes.
not a good fit, but that did help me to have, new understandings about things. It helped me to grow and learn in different ways,
Mhm.
really set me up and motivated me towards job 2 and job 3.
Yeah.
Were more in alignment with my energetic contribution and what it is that I'm here to share. And so, yes, love that this conversation around purpose, that we get to just open it up a bit more and expand it and not feel like there's only one way to live a fulfilling and successful life, that it can look many different ways depending on our needs and also what we're here to offer and share.
Yeah.
Yes. And so in your opening, in your story, you shared a bit about how people pleasing and perfectionism were a prevalent part of your process, growing up and then even into adulthood when you first moved to New York City. And would love to be able to just talk a bit about perfectionism and how this really inhibits our connection with our purpose.
Oh my gosh. So I always say I'm a recovering perfectionist because I don't think
Me too.
I
Working
mean
on it.
all of them, right? And so whenever I for me things like perfectionism, people pleasing, overachieving, for me those are coping mechanisms. I never call them character traits.
Mm.
We employ those tools, those habits, these coping mechanisms because of the environments we grew up in,
Mhm.
right? You become a perfectionist perhaps because, like, for me, I grew up, the only brown kid in a very white neighborhood, children of immigrants, and I felt like I was never seen or validated. And when I started doing things really well, that's when I was seen and validated, right? And so you see what happens when you do these things and you're like, oh, this is great. And unfortunately, all of these things as well are really applauded in our society,
Mm.
right? So it's not like we have different types of coping mechanisms. Some are more, I mean, I think they're all unhealthy, but some are more like socially acceptable, right? So like perfectionism, people pleasing,
Yay.
like those are white supremacy and capitalism are like, yes, keep doing that. That's great.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. Right.
And so it can become, you become enmeshed and you think this is your identity, but
Yeah.
also this is what keeps you safe. And
Yeah.
this is what makes me worthy. And this is what makes me, you know, a person in this world that is contributing. It's my perfectionism, right? And so with perfectionism, I don't know how I did it, but I was a perfectionist singer for, until I had my awakening. And
Mm.
that's impossible. Like there's no such thing in art as perfect. Like it's just
Mm.
never going to be, right? So
Yes.
I would perform and you can imagine what it would be like after. Like I would never live up to this perfect standard. And so I was always down on myself and it was like always trying to be better and do better. And then when I launched my business, I kept delaying doing things that meant a lot, that I knew were important, like my website, doing more posts on Instagram, just writing posts on Instagram, emailing clients. And so I fell
Mm.
into this thing of like, well, you don't really want this, obviously. You don't really want this, right? You're just lazy. You're not, like you just did a certification. That look at that. And I realized I was like, oh, I'm not any of those things.
Mm.
I just think people want my perfect. And it was my perfection that was making me delay,
Mm.
was making me not do the things that meant a lot to me. And in that moment, I was like, oh, shoot. And so I have a course called Inner Compass the Course, and there's a section on productivity. And it's
Mm.
like none of the productivity tools that like people say, like there's no goddamn life hacks. There's no waking up at 5. There's
Right.
none of, I don't believe in those, right? Because
Yeah.
I would have clients like me come to me who like had the certification, knew the life hacks, had the bullet journals, and they weren't doing the thing. So it's not the
Sure.
tools we have, it's what's going
Mm.
on internally. So like for me,
Yes.
productivity is learning how to let go of perfectionism.
Mm.
Productivity is about creating boundaries. Productivity is about actually self-compassion. Because when you mess
Mm.
up, if you can be kind to yourself, then you can get back up again and do the thing, right?
Yes.
So with perfectionism, I realized that this was the thing that was blocking me from doing the things I really wanted to do. And I always say, so then I adopted this idea of good enough work or B plus work. Brooke Castillo, I got it from her. I think she also calls it like B minus work. But
Okay.
I was like, whoa, I can't do B minus. Let's
Too
go
far.
with B plus. That's too far. Although honestly, I know sometimes I do B minus, but the beauty is, so I started to like slowly be like, I don't know if this is going to work, and I started doing what I call like good enough work, like where like I wouldn't check the post 3 times, or I just kind of put it together and like put it out in the world, and
Yeah.
or like I just get the website together and be like, this is fine, like I just need to have whatever.
Yeah.
And I started to realize like my people didn't care, like the people who wanted
Mm.
to work with me didn't care.
Yeah.
And I say that the space between good enough and perfectionism is where ego lives.
Ooh, yeah.
That is all ego. That has nothing to do with you, right? Like you think, oh, I'm a perfectionist. No, 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 no. That space between good enough and perfectionism where your ego thrives. And it's all about them. It's not about you. It's not about your standards. It's about them. What what you think they want from you, what you think
Right.
they need from you. You're a coach. So you're like, oh my gosh, you're a new coach. So you're like, I have to prove that I belong in this space. Right. So you're like trying to write these things that are like really smart or really new. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's good enough. And like on my Instagram, on my podcast, like if you come over there, you'll see like I make mistakes all the time and I will point them out.
Yeah.
And I will ask people, like, does this make you think any less of me? Does this
Mm.
make you want to unfollow me? Does this make you want to
Right.
not be part of my community? Half the time people don't even notice.
Sure.
I've some of my most shared posts are ones in which like the image caption, which you cannot change,
Mm.
has like a big old typo in it. People don't care. The people who want you and your work don't care. They're not here for your
Right.
perfectionism. They're here for you. You know, like with websites, they don't care if it's the most streamlined website. They just want to find a link to book a time with you, right? With Instagram, they just want to know what you're about. And so letting go of perfectionism, I feel like it's that intersection of doing the things you really want to do, like with your work or professionally, but also personally doing the things you want to do. Because if I'm belaboring over a post for like 10 plus hours, I'm not spending time with my husband, or I'm not like going out for a bike ride. I'm not like, this is about creating sustainability. This is about
Mm.
creating healthy goals and dreams. And so letting go of perfectionism is such a huge key in all of that. That's what I truly believe.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That what we're here for, right, is creating sustainability, is tapping into our goals and dreams. And I really like the definition that you were giving around productivity also. Productivity is about self-compassion, is about
Mhm.
boundaries, and that actually gets to be the source and the fuel of much more productive work than the forcing, the perfection, the self-harm, like self-harshness
Yes.
is a block and a barrier to our expression and our productivity. And I know that for a lot of folks that are going to be tuning in for this event, we're speaking to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and leaders and healers and change makers. And I think expanding into this work of sharing of your gifts and being vulnerable and stepping out into the world does come with a lot of fears.
Mhm.
Fears around taking up space, around being vulnerable, being seen, and wondering if you could share a bit about your own process around taking up space, being vulnerable, and how you've learned to really discern between fear and intuition.
Mm. So I'm going to share an equation with all y'all, which
Mm.
is the amount you want to do something, the amount something like it means to you, a dream, whatever, the amount you want to do something will equal the amount of fear you will have doing it. This is like, this equation is just like, I personally tested it out. It's true. Okay. So if you're feeling a lot of fear around what you are dreaming up, yeah. So that means you really want to do it. That means it's really important to you. So I think what's really unfortunate about our society is it tells us to dream big, but then it doesn't give us any of the emotional tools to actually achieve those dreams.
Mhm.
It gives us all those external tools, right? And then it points the finger at us and says, "Oh, but you're the problem," right? Because I gave you all those tools. I gave you that journal. I told you to wake up at 5. You know, I gave you that life hack that was like super helpful, and you're not doing it. So obviously, there's something wrong with
It's
you,
you.
right? And it's not that we just haven't learned how to navigate fear in a
Mm,
healthy way.
yes.
And so I have a lot of different ways with fear because like again, fear is always going to be part of the process. And so on my podcast, I share this, and in my groups, I share this. I have something called the fear protocol. With
Mm,
the fear protocol, when you sense fear, it's stopping to acknowledge first, oh my gosh, okay, there's fear here. Because sometimes we don't even do that. We're like, oh my God, I'm like, I gotta distract myself. I gotta go. So it's like first, like acknowledging the fear. And then the first question you ask is this a real fear or perceived fear, right? So if it's real fear, like real danger, like don't go down that alleyway, that fear has to be honored because I think, we have become conditioned to think that all fear is a warning sign. That
mm,
all fear that we feel is like caution, turn around, that fear knows something we don't know,
mm,
which sometimes it really does, which sometimes it does. And I will say that the more you do this work that I'm going to share with you, the more you will understand what that is. Because at first it's going to feel like a jumble. You're going to be like, I don't know, Shirin, because is it real? I don't know. And it will take some time to cultivate that, right?
yeah, yeah.
So first it's like, is this real fear? And if it is real fear, then like real perceived danger that you're putting yourself in some sort of physical or mental or emotional danger. Um, no, this isn't, no, don't do this, or maybe this isn't the time. But if you're like, no, this is just my fear of failure, my fear of uncertainty, my fear that I'm not enough. If it's those fears, what we do now is we actually like connect with it.
Mm,
And for me, it's like having a conversation with the fear, because fear is always trying to protect you. It is. It's trying to protect you from the pain of failure, like the disappointment of things not working out. Fear is trying to protect you, but it does it in not the best ways, right? Because then it holds us back from doing the things we want to do, which makes us then judge ourselves. So
mm,
it's like it's a very it's a very I don't want to say toxic or unhealthy, because like fear needs to also be honored. Like it's there for a really good reason. It really is. It's trying to protect you. And so if we handle fear with like frustration or anger, it's like just like dealing with a kid who's having a temper tantrum. The
mm,
worst thing you can do is to feed into that energy and give into it or ignore it. It's just going to
right.
get louder, or it's going to come up later. And so it's about like being like, okay, like what are you trying to protect me from? What are you so afraid of? And then really listening into that and assuring it, right? Like for me, sometimes like the fear is like, okay, like I know this is really scary. This is really new. So I understand this is really scary, but I
Mm,
promise you, I've got this. And if things go to the left, we'll have another conversation and we'll figure it out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
right, right.
it's literally just things like that, which I think we've never been taught to sit with those things, right? Like in Buddhism, they say like invite it for tea,
Yeah.
right? Invite it for tea, have a conversation with it. And just acknowledging it is I 100 that's going to make you feel like 40% better, right? And then just kind of going through this will give you so much insight, right? And
Mm,
the more you do it, the more you will understand like which voice. I mean, if we're girl, I could do a whole hour on intuition, but
mm, yes.
but I will say, one of the exercises I do often with clients in my group programs is I call it the I knew better exercise.
Mm,
And because a lot of my clients come to me thinking, well, I don't, you know what, like, I don't have intuition. I don't have inner wisdom. I don't. And I don't. Like, so because I, as a coach, believe we all know what's best for us. I, as a coach, believe that as a coach, I'm not teaching you what you don't know. I'm allowing you to uncover what you do know, right? I'm allowing you to let go of the perfectionism, the people pleasing, and the fear, so you can finally get to like the pearl, which we all have, right? So, but my clients were like, "No, Sharon, you know what? I'm the exception. Like, I do not know. I don't have any inner wisdom. No." And I say, "Okay, well, have you ever had an instance where you said to yourself, I knew better?" And 100% of the time, they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, well, I knew better means you did know, that you had an inner knowing, that you
yes.
do know what's best for you. What we have to get
Mm,
clear is what talked you out of that,
right.
right? That's what we have to figure out, because that voice is there. And so the work is about figuring out, oh, okay, what are the things, the thoughts, the beliefs, the real people, society, whatever, that hold me from connecting with that,
Mm,
connecting with that voice, connecting with that intuition, connecting with that feeling. And the more it's a lot of like pausing and reflecting and being like, what is this? Because a lot of the feelings in our bodies can sometimes feel like the same thing. And we
mhm.
don't know what they are. But there is a language that we all have. And it's just about becoming fluent in it again, and it takes time and practice.
Yes, I love that. It's about becoming fluent in that language that our body is
Yes.
seeking to communicate with us through. And that reminder, ooh, so important that we all know what is best for us.
Yes.
Having the support of whether it is a coach or a mentor, or it could even be a partner or a loving and supportive friend, our way that we get to interact with and nourish and support each other is just helping us come back home to ourselves, helping us uncover what's already there, what we already know to be true.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the ways in which you're currently learning and growing, and what some of your current growth edges are in your life and your spiritual practice.
Oh my gosh, I'm always learning. I'm
Mm,
never like I always say like it's not practice makes perfect. Practice makes practice. Like that's it, right?
mm,
Um and so for me right now, especially post COVID, like again, we teach, I'm sure you can identify with this. We teach what we need to hear the most and learn the most, right?
yes, so true.
So for me is I've gotten to a point in my life and my business where like um it's like whoa, holy crap, you did this. Whoa.
Mm,
Wow. And for me it's not about like always tumbling forwards. To be more present now, to be more here in the present day and to really be cultivating like I love that this is called soulful abundance because I think abundance is always there, like regardless of where you're at in your life, and our minds can often fixate on the lack, and
mhm.
when we allow that to happen we're missing out on so much amazingness and beauty and joy and just ease for ourselves. So
Yes.
for me it's been a lot of kind of um pausing more, reflecting more, being here more, and
Mm,
also like growing and whatever that means, but doing it in a way where like you can really acknowledge what's amazing now and then dreaming up of what could be later.
yes. Ah, so beautiful. And I think this really plugs into so many of the beautiful themes that we've been talking about throughout this conversation, and that those opportunities for rest, for pausing, for really being able to experience the amazingness in this present moment is also what allows us to connect with our purpose and understand when our intuition is flowing through us and overcome some of those aspects of perfectionism. So I love that you brought it together around that piece and also acknowledged our theme for the summit, which is soulful abundance. And would love to ask you what soulful abundance means to you.
I love this name.
Mhm.
Soulful abundance, I think, is that, yeah, that abundance is always accessible to us and it's something that really exists within us. It's
Mm,
always available, it's always there. And it's not so much about the external. Listen, external abundance is great, it's wonderful, but like the one that's more sustainable, the one that's going to allow you to thrive, is that one, it's the abundance within you, right? Like sometimes my husband and I are just like sitting on the couch and I'll just pause to like notice his hand on my hand and just look at him, and like we're doing something so simple, but like that to me is like abundance. That's soulful abundance, you know,
right.
those small moments where we can just tap into the incredibleness.
Yes. Ah, love that. Finding the richness and the abundance, even in the simple and the mundane, the small moments in life. And I know that our audience is going to be so excited about learning the ways that they can stay connected with you and be able to go deeper with you and your work. And would love if you could share that with us now.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Wholehearted Coaching. My website's wholehearted-coaching.com. And I also have a podcast, Wholehearted Coaching, the podcast. Throughout the year, I offer small group coaching programs. Some are more intimate than others. This summer, I'm doing something that's a larger group coaching program. But yeah, if you are interested in me and my work, definitely come join my email list. That's where you get all the information, but also on Instagram as well.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful, radiant energy with us today. I feel like I was so nourished by this conversation and gained so much, and I know that our audience is going to feel the same. So, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in, and I look forward to catching you again tomorrow for our next set of interviews. Be well, everyone.